Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. Got your questions today from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag Road to NoDQ 1000. This is episode number 967. Let's get started today with your questions. First one comes from Austin Allen. Should Jeff Hardy win a world title one more time? Interesting question. I've gotten quite a few people asking me about Jeff Hardy if he'll get a big singles run similar to the one in 2008 and 2009. I think that it will depend on the longevity of the Hardys in WWE. Will they just be a nostalgia act, or will they be able to do the broken gimmick again and advance those characters? That remains to be seen, but I think if the Hardys can have a lengthy reign in WWE, I could see them perhaps breaking up and then Jeff Hardy having a singles run again. I could see it happening. Now, Jeff Hardy being Universal Champion, I do not see that happening anytime soon. I think that Jeff Hardy is not in the plans as far as the Universal title picture goes. I think that WWE is focusing on Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns as the eventual match that they are going to build up towards. If Jeff Hardy was to be in contention for the Universal title, I think it would be sometime down the line. And again, the longevity would come into play. Will the Hardys be able to stay fresh as an act for that to happen? That's the big question, I think. I do not see WWE doing Brock Lesnar versus Jeff Hardy for the Universal title. Now, anything's possible. Maybe Hardy will really catch on as a babyface. Maybe this broken angle will take place in WWE and something will happen and Jeff Hardy will gain a ton of momentum. You never know for sure, but I would say the odds are against it right now. Got this one here from Aaron Rift Rules. Why is it WWE doing a Raw Money in the Bank match with the winner going for the Universal title just like they used to with the WWE title? This is a great question. I think that WWE missed an opportunity at WrestleMania to do a Raw Money in the Bank match with the winner getting a title shot. But then again, going back to that previous question, maybe that would interfere with WWE's plans for the Universal title and not wanting to mess up those plans. If you believe the speculation, it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at next year's WrestleMania, and having a Raw Money in the Bank briefcase holder would just serve as a distraction to that. So maybe that's why WWE is not doing it. That's just speculation on my part. I really don't know. I think it would be a great opportunity to do that match at a WrestleMania and have that storyline for that part of the year, to have somebody on Raw going for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Why not? Why not have one on each brand? Got this one here from Kyle Mitchell. What are your thoughts on Money in the Bank being a shared pay-per-view? Shouldn't each brand give their SS an opponent at their titles? I'm not sure what you mean by SS. Is that Survivor Series or SummerSlam or something else and I'm just being an idiot? I'm not sure. I think that it would be a nice idea because, generally speaking, Money in the Bank is one of the bigger pay-per-views of the year. And in some years, I would say it is like the fourth biggest pay-per-view ahead of Survivor Series. Now, with that being said, I think I would prefer the idea of SmackDown having the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and having the Raw brand Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. That way, you have the Money in the Bank matches separate from each other instead of doing 2 matches at once or even 3 matches at once. You know, we have the women's match. By doing it that way and keeping them separate, you can also do a second Money in the Bank match at the pay-per-view without oversaturating it. So I do like the idea of Raw having a Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania rather than doing a shared pay-per-view. This one comes from Sean T. Flick. Why is WWE so heel heavy right now? Naomi is the only face champion in the entire company at the moment. I think it's because of the fact that the heels in general are pretty weak in WWE, and WWE needed to do something to really build up the heels, and that's just the way the timing has worked. Now with Brock Lesnar, it's looking like he's going to be the babyface in the feud with Samoa Joe based off of Raw. The fans, at least, are going to make Brock Lesnar the babyface. And Lesnar hasn't really been defined one way or another as a face or a heel. He's just Brock Lesnar. He goes out there and beats up people. And it seems like WWE's just treating him as a tweener character. But yeah, the answer to your question is WWE's trying to build up the heels. That's why Jinder Mahal is the champion. SmackDown needed a top heel, and Mahal was in the right place at the right time with WWE wanting to expand into India. And with Alexa Bliss as champion, I mean, that's just the timing. Again, her going to Raw, giving her some momentum, making her champion. She's been doing really well for herself. Sheamus and Cesaro needed the win. They had several losses to the Hardys, so it made sense for a title change there. So it's just a timing thing as well. Got this one here from the Dark One. What is the biggest pop and hometown pop? I think Stone Cold Steve Austin against WCW and ECW, or Mankind winning the title and Punk in 2011. Biggest hometown pop, the one that really stands out to me is Goldberg beating Hollywood Hogan in the Georgia Dome on that Nitro in 1998. To me, that is probably the biggest hometown pop that I can remember. And 6 months later, I think you mentioned it, with Mankind winning the title from The Rock with Steve Austin's assistance. That pop was just unbelievable. Steve Austin returning. This was something that did not air on WWE television in 2003. I was at Staples Center for a Raw, and after the show ended, Steve Austin came out, and it really felt like the roof was blown off that place. I mean, for me personally, that was the biggest live pop I've ever seen. And maybe CM Punk, as far as both a hometown pop and just a pop in general. I think CM Punk's in 2011 winning the WWE title in Chicago, I mean, that has to be right up there at the biggest reactions. Got this one here from Colin Andrew. If you could pick your dream table for 3, who would it consist of? I thought about this a little bit, and I'd have to go with, first off, Jim Cornette, bring him back, but instead of bringing him back with people that he doesn't really have a problem with, bring him back with somebody he despises. I'm talking about Vince Russo. Cornette and Russo on a WWE program, I would pay money for that. I would buy a ticket for that. And there's all this talk about Cornette and Russo. Cornette has challenged Russo to a real fight. You can read more about that and check out the video at NoDQ.com, by the way. But I'd love to see Cornette, Russo, and Hogan. I think because of not only Hogan's past with Russo, but also the fact that Cornette compared Hulk Hogan to garbage back in the 90s, I think that would be really interesting to have Jim Cornette, Hulk Hogan, and Vince Russo at a table for 3 and just let it be no holds barred and they could say whatever they want. I'd be really curious to see how that would go down with no script. Just put the 3 of those guys at a dinner table and film them and see what happens. And speaking of Hogan and Russo, from Joshua, regarding what happened at the Bash of the Beach 2000, who do you tend to believe, Russo or Bischoff and Hogan? I'm with Russo. The story during that period was that Russo was trying to phase out Hogan and Flair and all those guys, and it was met with resistance. But what happened at Bash at the Beach, it's really hard to say what exactly went down there. According to Russo, the whole thing with Hogan laying down for Jeff Jarrett was part of the script. Now, according to Hogan, Russo coming out there and doing that promo on Hogan was not part of the script, and that is Russo going into business for himself. The thing about Russo is he's blurred the lines between work and shoot so many times, you really don't know what was planned or what wasn't, and I think that was part of the design, and maybe Russo was just trying to throw off as many people as possible, but in the process, I think he really pissed off Hulk Hogan. I think the comment about Hogan being a bald son of a bitch was the comment that really set off Hogan, and he took offense to that, and there were all these legal issues, and the whole thing was just a huge mess. I think everybody in WCW was just fed up with the state of the company, and you know, as Hogan would say, they worked themselves into a shoot, brother. This one comes from Deadpool James. Should King of the Ring be part of the Survivor Series pay-per-view and the winner crowned and earned the number 30 spot for the Royal Rumble? Your thoughts? First of all, I want to say hi, James. Good to see you whenever I'm down there in LA. Now, regarding your idea, I think it's a solid idea, but I think I would prefer King of the Ring if it's brought back to be a pay-per-view again. I missed the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and I think you could dump Extreme Rules or get rid of one of these pay-per-views that really serve no purpose, like Great Balls of Fire or Battleground. One of these names that just feels like it was thrown out there with no thought process. King of the Ring was a cool concept. I would like to see that back as a pay-per-view, but if it doesn't happen that way, the next best thing might be to do something like that. But I think it would be better also to have the King of the Ring winner go for the WWE title rather than get the number 30 shot. I think it's just weird to have the winner of the big tournament have to compete in something else to get a title shot. I think if they win the tournament, that's good enough to get a title shot. This one comes from Deplorable Hamp. How much more do the ratings have to drop for WWE to panic and make changes? I think the only way WWE would really make significant changes is if there's a real threat of USA Network canceling WWE programming, and I think that the ratings would really have to fall a lot more than they have for that to even be considered. USA Network overall is happy with the ratings, even though they've been down. They're still solid. They still boost USA Network's rankings in the cable industry, and sometimes Raw is still the highest ranked cable show, or right up there, number 2 or number 3. So Raw still delivers very strong ratings by cable standards. Now, compared to the past in WWE, their own history, the ratings are at virtually an all-time low. But, you know, WWE had better days where the company was more popular and had more casual fans tuning in, and it's come down to a situation where WWE has very few casual fans, and it's just the hardcores, the long-time fans that are watching the show. I think there was a recent study about how most people watching WWE now, WWE TV, are into their 40s. So it's a situation where you have the older, long-time fans watching, and WWE is not appealing to the younger audiences. Now, again, I think the ratings would really have to fall. The viewership would really have to sink even lower to the point where WWE being on USA Network would not make a difference in their numbers. And WWE still makes a difference in a positive way for USA Network. This one comes from Mr. Yuck. Should Nakamura have stayed in NXT longer? There seems to be something lacking in the way he is booked. No, I think he's doing just fine right now in WWE. I'm not sure what you're expecting. You're expecting him to be the world champion, come in and immediately be the world champion? That's not going to happen. Maybe someday he will be WWE champion. I would not rule it out, but the fact is, he is a major star in WWE right now. He is on SmackDown. He's getting great reactions, and he's in the main event at Money in the Bank. He's in a high-profile match. He's making big money. I say it's a big success so far. I know some people are critical of the artist name, and I agree on that. I think it's a bit silly, and I think his promos need work, or maybe just not have him cut promos. That might be something you might want to consider doing. But so far, I think he's doing pretty well, and I think it's way too soon to say that it's a flop or he should go back to NXT, where he'd be making a lot less money, by the way. This one comes from Grant Smithy. Hey Aaron, don't you think it made The Undertaker look weak that he kept aligning himself with Paul Bearer after being turned on? People always get on my case when I say turned on because it sounds like something sexual. Turned against, I think, would be the better way to say it for all of us, but whatever. I really don't care. To answer your question, I do think that there was a big logic hole when Undertaker was so quick to go back with Paul Bearer in '98 after the better part of 2 years. They had this bitter feud and everything that went down with Undertaker versus Kane. It just felt like it was done to get Undertaker established as a heel again by having him align with Paul Bearer. But to me, you really had to check your brain at the door and not think about all the angles that were done just months earlier. Like, I remember one segment where Undertaker showed up in Paul Bearer's house and beat the crap out of Paul Bearer, and then, what was it, 3 to 4 months later, they're working together again. So yeah, there was a big logic hole with that, but that's Vince Russo for you. This one comes from Roman's Balls of Fire. All right, nice name there. Is it the Cruiserweights' fault that nobody cares about them, or is it creative doing nothing with them? I would say it's creative more than anything else. I think the biggest problem is that people saw the Cruiserweight Classic and saw these guys doing a lot of cool high spots and just holding nothing back, and in WWE on the main roster, they're being held back, you know? They're not being allowed to go out there and really showcase their abilities. And also WWE's trying to do the whole thing of turning them into sports entertainers. The thing is, you gotta play to their strengths, and their strengths are going out there and just doing amazing things that most human beings cannot do. And that's what the Cruiserweight's all about. When I think of the Cruiserweights, I think of the high-flying action, fast-paced, exciting matches. And we have seen some pretty good Cruiserweight matches on the main roster, but it's definitely been toned down a bit from the Cruiserweight Classic, and I think that's the biggest problem. Other problems, of course, I think trying too hard with the storylines, and I think also the whole thing of changing the ring ropes and changing the ring for the segments. I think that they need to just drop that, in my opinion. But yeah, I think if you make some of those changes, it would definitely get over better, and doing 205 live instead of making it live, just do it on tape delay, film it before SmackDown. There's quite a few things you could do to help the Cruiserweight division. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ Video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do me a favor, share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, tell a friend about NoDQ Video. Word of mouth can really go a long way. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding the upcoming Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and I will see you guys next time.